Date is Friday, December 1st. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Figure Four Podcast. My name is Doug. This episode, Donald's back with us. We sit down, we discuss our top 5 heels of all time. Could be managers, could be wrestlers, doesn't really matter. We also talk a little bit about Survivor Series, and we talk about the CM Punk situation in the WWE. It's going to be a great show, folks. Hope you enjoy. Let's get to it.
Okay. So I didn't, for my list, for my top 5, I didn't keep it to just wrestlers. I actually incorporated it in like other personalities
Yeah, I did too.
from over the years. So I just came up with a top 5. I'll be honest, I kind of struggled a little bit because I was trying to think like, during that dead era of when I wasn't watching, I'm like, well, who the fuck were the heels back then? Like there's probably like a 15-year window where I wasn't watching, but I kind of like my list. I've got an honorable mention too.
Who do you got? You might as well start. Who do you got at number 5?
Number 5, I went with Jerry the King Lawler. Um, his insults to the Hart family, like back during his feud with Brett, they were the stuff of legends. Like talking about Stu and Helen. There's the feud with Andy Kaufman back in the days. I think that was Midwest Wrestling when that happened. He could work the fans like no one else. The later years, he was more comedic value than anything. Puppies.
Yeah. You know what I love when you talked about the Hart family? He was talking about Stu and Helen one time. He said, I can see them now. They'll be sitting eye to eye over a bowl of prunes, and they'll call it Senile in Seattle.
I mean, like some of his quips, they were the stuff of legends. And I mean, thankfully he's still with us today, and you can go back and watch some of his stuff. I wish he'd come back and like make a guest appearance on Monday Night Raw.
He was actually on Raw not too long ago, but he didn't do much. He just came out and gave a little wave and went back. And it's so funny to see his hair. Like his hair is like a natural color or like a dark brown, light brown or whatever, but his goatee is white.
Yep.
That
was after he had his...
He came out with a book a few years ago. It's Good to Be the King. And I've never read it, but I heard it actually is a really, really, really good book.
Might have to look into that. Yeah, that would have been his first TV appearance since after he had his stroke. So that's he's still rehabbing from what I know, but the King came in for me at number 5.
Okay. Number 5 for me, I took Ravishing Rick Rude.
Ooh.
For one reason. He looked good. And he was a prick for it. And he made you realize that you could never be him. And your woman wanted to lick every square inch of his body. And there's nothing you can do about it. He was, when he'd always have, depending on the city, what I'd like to have right now, or for all you fat. And then he'd always have something different. Seattle sweat hogs or Mississippi mole rats or something, and then he took Bobby Heenan, helped him take that robe off. And, he'd do his posing. But the thing about Rude was he was a good wrestler too. Like Rick Rude made the Ultimate Warrior look like Warrior was a wrestler.
Yeah.
But he was just, my God, that back injury that kind of took him out of the game, and he was in ECW for a while. He still looked really good even when he was in WCW and even WWE with DX, walking around with a suitcase or part of the NWO, and then he wound up in ECW for a short time before he passed away, which was sad because he went way too young. I can't remember how old he was, but he wasn't very old. Maybe 40, but I don't think he was 40.
Must have been in his 40s, maybe mid 40s, something like that.
But as a heel character, he was just, he didn't need Bobby Heenan, but he needed Bobby Heenan, but he'd never like come out and admit it. Like, look, when he won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 5 against the Ultimate Warrior, went to suplex him in. Heenan grabbed Warrior's ankles. Down they go. 1, 2, 3. Rude's the champion. And no one, like if it was someone bigger than Rick Rude, and this is how you know when a heel is doing their job well. He could take a shit kicking and sell like no other. Like when he would take an inverted atomic drop, so you're chest to chest, you pick him up and you drop him on your knee so like it crushed his balls, and he would like tense right up and do this little wiggle around the ring.
Yep.
He could take a shit kicking and sell like no other, and the fans would go crazy, and that's the sign of a damn good heel. But
Yep.
for me, it was Rick Rude at number 5.
That's a good pick. Coming in for me at number 4, I went with Paul Heyman.
Okay.
Basically, he's got a face that you just want to punch over and over and over again.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. But man, the guy can talk.
He can work the crowd, man. Like you want to talk somebody that can get like stir up that the crowd. Like he can do it. He's great on the mic. Like I said, you want to punch him in the face over and over again. I mean, he's nowhere close to Bobby Heenan, but he has to be one of the best managers that pro wrestling has ever seen. I mean, look at him. He's gone from Jesus, Brock.
If I
He's
may,
gone
sir.
to Roman.
Not manager. He has been an advocate and special counsel to the tribal chief. Not manager, if you will, sir.
He ran ECW, and I mean, look at the promotion at the time, man. Like they were just supposed to be this little company,
Hottest
and
thing
they
on
were
television, right up there with Raw.
They were right up there. A great mind for the business. I don't know. I mean, you look at him when he comes out with Roman or Solo, and it's just like I could strangle that motherfucker.
Yes. At the very least, kick him in the face.
Exactly. And you know what? And we've always talked about it. That just proves he's doing his job.
That's right.
So
What's great about him too is, the fans also enjoy him too. He'll come out and they'll boo and stuff. But like, it's like me, whenever I see Paul Heyman, and when you see Paul Heyman and he's got that mic, it's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining, and he's going to say something to get himself in trouble every single time. Now, when you say, you had mentioned Bobby Heenan, I'm going to say in some ways, as much as I love Bobby the Brain Heenan, in some ways, he's actually better than Heenan.
You think?
In some ways. Heenan was also good on the mic. Heenan would get physical. Paul Heyman doesn't get physical. It's very rare.
Right.
Paul Heyman is more well-spoken, where Bobby Heenan was just like, blah, 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 like, but the thing with Bobby Heenan was it was just off the top of his head, which a lot of Paul Heyman is too. Yeah. But it's hard. Like sometimes I like to call him a modern day Bobby Heenan. It's like he took that's the fairest way I can put it. He took what Bobby Heenan did and he bumped it up a level without taking an ass kicking.
Yeah, I can see that. If you ever have a chance, go back, and I don't know if you ever watched the show The Bump.
No, I never watch it.
There's an episode of The Bump with Paul Heyman on there, and it's like it didn't break. Like you'll get some guys that get on there and they'll break character. They'll talk about certain things. I'm pretty sure it was him and Dominic, and neither one of them broke character, and it was one of the funniest episodes that I ever saw.
Yeah, and he doesn't like Kayla either, so.
No, he doesn't. So I had Paul E. Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman, coming in at number 4.
Well, we pretty much covered it because I had him at number 4 as well. No, I didn't actually. That's a lie. My number 4 is King Kong Bundy.
Okay.
Bundy, back in the day, was just a big fat fuck that acted like a bully, but could back it up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the angle he was with Hulk Hogan. Is Bundy put Hogan out before WrestleMania 2 for how many weeks? And fans they hated him for that. They hated what he did to Hogan. Go the next year, WrestleMania 3, he beat the shit out of a bunch of midgets.
Hmm.
Like body splatting them, body slamming them, dropping elbows on them, which even when we were kids and saw WrestleMania 3, we're like, "Oh my god, he's dead." What there was that baseball player was there doing a little play-by-play, Bob Euchre, and and Jesse Ventura said, "I'd love to see Bundy put the big kibosh on one of these midgets," and Gorilla was like, "Oh, would you stop?" And it got quiet for a second, and Euchre said, "Marinated mushrooms is what it would be." So, but Bundy was just that type. Anywhere he went, it was like he was a bully, but he wasn't a bully. He didn't need to be a bully. He was so goddamn big. But
Yeah.
even just to look at his face, even before an interview, now this was back when he had no eyebrows. When he came back
Hmm.
in the 90s, he had eyebrows and he looked like an egg, like Humpty Dumpty. But yeah, he would stand there with that smug look and he would just start talking, but you could tell he was confident and he knew he was going to squash whoever he got in the ring with. And the fans there was never like you could see heels going face and vice versa. They've done it a few times. Bundy would never be a face.
No,
Never,
God, no.
never, 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 never. He looked like an asshole. And that's why I think he fit in so well in the Bobby Heenan family. And that's why I took him at number 4.
You mentioned the match between him and Hogan at WrestleMania. Like, think about how big Hulkamania was at the time. Like, the curtain hadn't been pulled back.
No, it was huge.
So, like, everybody was like, when he took Hogan out of commission, everyone's just like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like,
Yeah.
like you'd look into the crowd and like people would be like, sending like yelling death threats at him. I'm gonna murder your mother or so, whatever. Like everybody was so caught up in that.
It'd be like getting into a cab here in Edmonton the day Wayne Gretzky got traded. Can I go to West Edmonton Mall? Fuck you. Wayne is gone.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that's a good pick, man. Okay, so for number three on my top five, I went with the Hitman during the Canada versus US era.
Oh, that's a good one.
So we're looking like 95, well, 96-ish around there. So the Austin era has definitely kicked off. Everybody's loving DX. Brett is really pushing the whole, in the States, they don't care about the elderly. In Canada, at least we still have health care, and he worked that crowd into a frenzy, man. Um, I think that version of heel Brett was actually better than like the Hart Foundation with Jimmy Hart. Wasn't really too Mike savvy at that time, but as he's gone on, like he ended up developing a pretty good a pretty good use for the mic. Um, but yeah, again, another like during that era, like he could whip that crowd into a frenzy. Like if the flip side of that, they're up in Canada, he's basically going to be printed on the Canadian dollar bill, and in the States, he was pretty much the biggest asshole that there was at the time.
Oh yeah. The documentary Wrestling with Shadows. I don't want to make fun of people because I'm a wrestling fan myself, but some of the people they interviewed outside this one event, I mean, Jesus Christ, the only thing they were missing is a banjo and a few more teeth. They looked and they said, "Why does Canada suck?" Because they said we suck. They started this. That was his answer. Like I was just like, Jesus. But no, you're right. There was no bigger heel back then during that era. And that Canada US thing was huge. Took right off.
Really did.
He Brett was, like you said, loved in Canada and overseas, but just
Hmm.
hated in Europe. Well, yeah, he was like even with the Heart Foundation, like he had everyone around him. He was the one that they despised. The other
Yeah.
ones weren't bad. They didn't really, but the minute Brett got the mic, it's like Dominic Mysterio getting the mic now. It's just
Yeah.
boo. That's I actually never even thought of Brett when they were doing that Canadian angle thing. That's a wicked pick.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I kind of struggled with it, but then I'm like, when I was really watching it, like, glued to the TV every Monday and at the time Thursday for SmackDown, um, just that, like him coming out with the Hart Foundation, Owen, Davey, Pillman, you know, they'd walk out and like I think the most memorable quote that he had mentioned when he was doing the whole Canada versus US heel thing was that if the USA was a human or something like that, and they needed to shove an enema anywhere, it would be right here in Florida, or something to that extent.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, that's what it
Pittsburgh,
was.
Pennsylvania.
So that's Hitman during that mid '90s era. That was my number three.
Okay. My number three, this is where I got a little confused, is Bobby the Brain Heenan. I put the
Okay.
Brain at number three. We kind of we touched on it before. There's not a lot to say. Bobby Heenan could just go out, and it was the look on his face, and he could look so happy one minute and just so low the next. And when you look at the guys he had in his stable, and we've talked about this before, Bundy, Stud, Haku, Rude, Andre. Did I say Paul Orndorff?
Nope.
The Head Shrinkers. I think he had the Head Shrinkers for a little while. The Brain Busters, Ric Flair, Kurt Hennig. The men that man had in his stable over the years is incredible, and every
Hmm.
one of them are legitimate heels. Every
Hmm.
single one of them. And then you throw Bobby the Brain Heenan into the mix, who is just like the most hated man. So, and then of course he's great on the mic. He would take a great shit kicking too, and fans wanted to see him get the shit kicked out of him. But like I said,
The
we talked
weasel
about
suit.
him a little bit before, but so I won't spend too much time on it. But yeah, Bobby the Brain came in at number three for me.
That's a good pick, man. I'll never forget him in the weasel suit. I'm pretty sure he was. It was against Warrior, I think,
It was, yeah.
and Warrior, like he did what Warrior does. Dropped him on his face, did the splash, and then put the suit on him. The way that he sold that suit, that was amazing. That
Chasing his tail.
Yeah,
He actually wanted to do that with Hogan.
that would have
He liked
worked.
the Weasel match. He wanted to do with Hogan, but Warrior was over.
Yeah.
So as much as he didn't want to do, he didn't appreciate it. He didn't appreciate it, Warrior.
No, that's a good pick. Um, Coming in at number two for me, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. He was loved and hated at the same time, and I don't know any other wrestler, at least in modern day, that you could say that he was loved and hated equally by the fans. Um, as he always says, he's the first one to say it. He was the dirtiest player in the game.
Yep.
Men wanted to be like him. Women wanted to be with him. I mean, the guy survived a plane crash, broke his back in how many places, and still managed to come back and deliver. Like he's always said, Ric Flair was not a persona. He lived that
He
life.
did.
Like he was Ric Flair in and out of the ring. Um, but yeah, you'd love to hate him, but I mean, it's the Nature Boy.
Pretty
That's
impressive because according to Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair went like 10 or 12 years without drinking water. It was just beer and liquor. So,
Jesus Christ.
but no, that's according to Hulk Hogan. Take it as you will. I remember
Brother.
in the Silverdome, brother, and there were 500,000 people there to see me and Andre take on Jesse Ventura. like, no, that's a good pick. That's an awesome pick. My number two is, and again, this is where I messed up, is Paul Heyman.
Okay.
As far as I'm the same as you. I didn't just go wrestlers. I went managers as well, obviously. Special counsel. I beg your pardon. We've already talked about him. You look at what he did. He's just a hateable man. but he's doing his job. If you hate him that much and you get excited when you see him, just to hear him talk so you can say, God damn it, I hate you, you prick, but everything you're saying is true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I you know when I really hate Paul Heyman is when he comes out and Roman Reigns is actually there. And he comes
Mm-hmm.
out with Roman Reigns and he's holding the championship or whether he's not, and he's looking at Roman Reigns like, hey, like it's creepy, it's gross, and I don't know. But even going back to the days of Paul Lee Dangerously when he had the Dangerous Alliance in WCW, and that was a faction. Rick Rude, Medusa, Stunning Steve Austin, Beautiful Bobby, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko. That was a stable itself, too.
Oh my God.
And even back then, him and that fucking telephone, you knew he was going to hit somebody with it.
How many of those did he ever go through?
Oh
Like,
my!
was it ever revaled?
He was asked that question one time, and he just said a lot. Every time he would wait until like they went on sale at Walmart or somewhere, and he'd pick up a couple of them just
Yeah.
to have them, type thing. But of course, you still have to gimmick them because if you hit someone with them cordless phones, it's going to goddamn well hurt.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
But so they had to gimmick them a little bit. But yeah, from Paul E. Dangerously to Paul Heyman, the manager, to Paul Heyman, the advisor, to Paul Heyman, the advocate, to Paul Heyman, the special counsel. That as he goes on to whatever you want to call him, fans hate him, but they love him at the same time. But he's still entertaining. So Paul Heyman's me at number 2.
That's a good pick. That's I mean, putting him up there, like where I had him a little bit lower on the list, but I mean, you could move him anywhere
You could.
on
It's
on a top five.
any
Like,
of these guys. I mean, we're talking top 5, like not necessarily like who are we? We're wrestling fans. Like not necessarily our top 5 is gospel, but in our generation, I'm almost 48 years old. We've seen a lot of wrestlers and a lot of managers come and go in those 48 years.
mhm.
Being in anyone's top 5 is pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So coming in at number one, and as I mentioned off the top of the show, I do have an honorable mention. I'll get to that after we both review our number ones. For me, it was the Hot Rod. Back in the day when he was running with Orton and Paul Orndorff.
Yeah.
Man, like you know that you're getting over as a heel when people stab you when you're walking back through the crowd.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure, like on Piper's Pit, like he'd say some pretty kooky things, and like just to get his guests riled up a little bit. My favorite Piper's Pit incident was the coconut and Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah.
They brought in a prop coconut, but Piper actually hit him with the real one.
Yep.
There was like a couple of them there. Piper grabs the real one and smokes Jimmy Snuka in the head. That wasn't a work.
No.
That was real. Um, the booze that he got from that, but like I remember watching an interview with him on YouTube, and he was talking about a time that he was walking back after the match was over, and someone comes up and fucking stabs him,
Yep.
like in the crowd. Like I said, you're getting over as a heel whenever people want to attempt murder on you, for real.
And you know what? His best stuff wasn't even, I mean, he was good in WWF as a heel. He was way better in the NWA in the Mid Atlantic area
Yeah,
when he was, before he came to WWF. He was way better as a heel there. Way
yeah.
better. Believe it or not, he actually toned it down a little bit by the time he came to WWF and he got Piper's Pit and all that stuff. Yeah, running around with the ace. My ear's been broken for 2 fucking years.
Right.
Jesus. He was good. What I loved about Roddy Piper, I mean, I don't think he ever did it as a heel. I never ever saw him do it, but I don't think it would have the impact as if, like you're running, it's a fast-paced match. He go to clothesline you, he just stops, turns around and gives the 2 fingers right in the eye.
What? Oh,
I don't
every
think he
match.
ever did it as a heel though.
I'd have to go back and watch some of his matches. He did it as a face. He
Oh
definitely
yeah,
did it
he
as a face.
definitely, but it got over as a face. It was hilarious. But for him to do that as a heel, I don't. I like I said, I don't remember him doing it, but I don't think it would have the same impact either as
Yeah,
doing it as a heel.
yeah. So that was my number one. Was the hot rod?
My number one, and it's a mixture of guys. I just took the Four Horsemen
Oh my God.
because where Flair was involved, and that's why I kind of like. Well, I liked it before it got old with the Bloodline because the Bloodline were doing everything the Four Horsemen did for years to keep that title on Ric Flair.
Yep.
You
Yep.
weren't when you were fighting Ric Flair, you weren't just fighting Ric Flair, you were fighting the Four Horsemen.
Yep.
And when they came out, I still love. I'd go back and I watched their old interviews in that studio when they'd all come out, and you could get all of them over, even J.J. Dillon, in 2.5 minutes,
Hmm.
which back in the day was pretty damn good. Okay, guys, you got 2.5 minutes, and every one of you have a match. Every one of them
Yep.
had a match, but every one of them got over. Tully didn't talk a whole lot unless he was there the odd time by himself. It was mostly JJ, Arn. Well, when I can't even say that. When Ole was there, Ole did a lot of the talking.
Yeah.
Rick did a lot of the talking, but yeah, just all of them guys. You weren't fighting one. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this title reign of Roman Reigns is absolute bullshit because
Hmm.
he's never there. But at the same time, makes you want to see him get his ass beat even worse. And
Every
back
single
and
match.
back in the day, on a like it's not like compared to now, but back in the day, that's the way it was with the Four Horsemen. You had guys that really hated the Four Horsemen. That's how they felt about Flair, is how we feel about Roman Reigns and the bloodline today.
Yeah.
So number one, I just took the Four Horsemen as a group as my number
And
one heel of all time.
that's an amazing pick, man. And like you could individually take any one of them and make that one person your number one.
Oh,
Like you could
Tully
take
Blanchard was just a fucking asshole.
yeah,
he was the
like
one. I actually always loved the Four Horsemen. I never hated them, but Tully I always fucking despised because he was just a cocky, skinny, fat prick.
yeah.
Now
No,
you said
that's
you said you had an honorable mention.
I do. So going back on his days when he was a commentator, he would usually end up making himself into a maverick. How many stone cold stunners has he taken? Not that Vince McMahon, the corporate Vince McMahon
Mm-hmm.
coming down
Mister
and
McMahon.
the arms are going like this, like walking down to the ring. Just the strut itself. Like I'd look at him coming down to the ring, man. I'd be like, "You are a fucking asshole." And then like the whole "You're fired."
Damn
Like,
it! It's that damn DX again.
yeah, like corporate Vince McMahon. Like anytime, like him and Briscoe and Patterson, like
Oh, the
the
Stooges.
Stooges. Like, see it, like it's pretty amazing that Vince McMahon had his own fucking faction
Yep.
at the time.
Well, he
Big
had his
Boss
own
Man was part
club.
of it.
Damn it! The
Yeah,
Kiss My
the
Ass
Kiss My
Club.
Ass Club. That
Yeah.
wasn't rehearsed, folks. But yeah, corporate Vince McMahon and all of his cronies, like that era of Vince McMahon, honorable mention.
So okay, so that's our top five. We went through that pretty quickly because it's only a top five. There's not much going on in the world of wrestling to wrap around right now, except as of last week. First, before we get into CM Punk, what did you think of Survivor Series? We're not going to go like cover all the matches and everything like that. What did you think of Survivor Series as a pay per view of the show
Um,
itself?
it wasn't bad. I'd say it was better than Crown Jewel.
Oh, hands
Um,
down.
I really like the women's War Games match. I thought that was pretty good.
That was friggin' awesome. EO Sky with the trash can.
Off off the top of the cage, I was sitting here and I said to Tara, I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? Like she's gonna die.
I thought for sure, like that match itself, I thought for sure Bailey was done in Damage Control. It's
Yeah,
coming. It's coming. It's
it's
coming. It's coming.
it's definitely coming. You like they kind of teased it last week, I think it was, when like they all came down to the ring and Dakota Kai was like, talking about like a new member and someone else was leaving or something like that. Like it was kind of hinting around to it, but you get the feeling that it's going to happen. I don't see her staying a heel when she's booted out of Damage Control.
Oh
I could see
no.
her going babyface.
Yeah, they'll put her face absolutely.
Like the crowd loves her, and she has put over how many women wrestlers like
Oh
in
my
in her
God.
singles matches.
A lot.
You know, like she hasn't won a match in I don't know how long. It's been a while.
Bailey, Jesus. Counting, yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's won a match since she lost the championship. How long
Yeah,
ago was that? Like,
yeah. It's been a while, man, and I think even just for the fact that she's been putting over so many of the female superstars, it's time for another Bailey run.
yeah,
I I would entertain that idea. Like I'd like to see that happen. And even though she's in Damage Control right now, who are heels, like it's like she's liked already by the crowd.
yeah, yeah. I was never a big Bailey fan, depending, well, it depends on what angle the camera's on. But yeah, I can see them putting her back face because it's like she tries too hard to be a heel. She
Yeah,
tries way too hard. So just put, now I'm not saying give her a ponytail again and have them wacky inflatable tube man things go up and she goes around and hugs everyone. Don't do that. Keep your
no,
same attitude, but just be a face,
yeah.
right? But yeah, I really enjoyed that. What'd you think of the men's war games?
Ah, I mean, it was cool to see Randy back. Jesus, man, he's jacked.
Oh yeah, he looks like he's put 20 pounds on for sure.
Easy, easy. I thought the men's match was okay. Um, I thought War Games last year, where it was the Bloodline, like where Sammy was still with the Bloodline, I thought that War Games was better than this year's. Um, Cody forming like I don't know, like a DC or a Marvel superstar, like superhero team with those guys. Like it seemed a little over the top.
Yeah,
Um, I will say this. I was actually kind of surprised that Randy didn't have a TV spot leading up to Survivor Series. Like he literally was introduced at the match. Like not even earlier in the night. It was during the match. Like
I think
everyone
that's
was,
I think that was the best way to do it. Leave the crowd
yeah.
in suspense. Like
Was he
when
going to
he
show up?
when he walked out, everyone was like, "God damn, look at him! He's never looked this good."
Yeah.
And I think it was well done. That's leave it a surprise.
Yeah.
Keep you wondering. Well, is he going to show up? Because a lot of people were thinking that I read online that CM Punk was going to take his spot.
I read that too.
So you know, take it as you will. Now, speaking of the boy wonder, he comes out. He actually looked good too. He looks like he's put on a few pounds.
Yeah.
Um, Seth Rollins loses his shit on him.
Hmm.
Is it a work? Was that a work the way Seth Rollins was going off?
I'm going to call it a work. Now, if you go back a couple of months ago, Seth was being interviewed by, oh, who was it? It was a sit down interview. And he was asked about something that Punk had done. And he expressed, I don't like him.
Yeah.
He expressed his true feelings in a calm way. So some people are saying it was a work. Maybe there is some personal tension between the two. I don't know. Now, we did a show a little while back after Punk got booted out of AEW. And I remember saying, I hope he practices up on his Japanese because he's going to New Japan Wrestling because no other promotion is going to hire him back.
Yeah.
The fact that Triple H brought him back, there must be some kind of fucking stipulation in his contract, some kind of clause that says if you act up, you're out.
Yeah.
There's no three strikes. We're not doing that again. You screw up one time.
Remember what Tony Soprano said about screwing up? It's an Italian saying, you fuck up once, you lose two teeth.
Yep.
Read that book, punk. Chicken Soup for the Soul. You ought to read Tomato Sauce for Your Ass, the Italian version.
That's perfect. No, I was really shocked to see Punk coming out. I mean, the rumors had been on the wall for a little while, and like what you read online and on Instagram and stuff like that. And he was asked about, like, are you showing up at Survivor Series? And he's like, well, the last thing I heard, it was sold out, so I won't be able to get a ticket. But for him to come back, like, there has to be, like, his contract has to be heavy with stipulations, and has to be. Like,
this is not Vince McMahon. This is not Tony Khan and the agents running this show. This is Triple H. This is Vince McMahon, and this is basically the UFC calling the shots here.
Yep.
So, yeah, he's not coming in swinging a big bat. He's in there. He's walking on eggshells, and I guarantee you, there's a probationary period.
I would say.
So hopefully, I mean, I think he still has a lot to give. I don't think he's over the hill by any means.
No.
I just hope he kind of toes that company line and behaves himself, because he does still have a lot to offer. And I think he'd be a fantastic mentor to guys like Dominic Mysterio, who's doing a fantastic job of being a heel, by the way. We talked about heels before, that whenever they walk out, you want to see them just get their face smashed. They're doing a good job. He's doing a good job, but to learn from someone like CM Punk, and now that Randy Orton is back too, like, to talk to them, what you think? Well, when you did this, you should have did that. Or when you do that, do this with it next time. Great to learn from. I just hope he doesn't fuck up, because this is it for him.
Absolutely.
There's only one other place to go if he blows this, and that's Japan.
Yep. They won't have him back in AEW. There's no way.
No, he'll never be back. He'll never be back
No.
in AEW. You know, it's wrestling. They always say never say never. I'm fucking saying never. He's getting too old anyway. Like, this will be his last run.
I think so.
Maybe they make him an agent or something like that, do some special appearances or whatever, but yeah, he's too old.
He's controversial, but he's still a draw. Like, when he came out, Chicago went absolutely insane.
Oh my
when
God.
He came out from the back.
The whole building.
Yeah. Like, he's still a good draw, and he is a good talent. Like, he's got good in-ring skills. It's just he needs to learn and not be such a dick with the talent. Like, that's
it's not just being a dick, it's ego. And we've said this before. If you don't have an ego, you don't belong in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
But knowing when to check that ego and show a little humility goes a long way in the wrestling business too.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a couple of things in the wrestling industry that can give you a bad reputation. And that's, you've got a bad attitude or you're a thief. And those are the two no-nos in professional wrestling. If you got a bad attitude, you can't wrestle yourself out there. And if you're a thief stealing from one of the boys, well, you're going to get a leg broken.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just hope this is it. There's nowhere else to go, like we said, except maybe New Japan Pro Wrestling. So don't fuck it up, Punk. That was our top 5, guys. Hey, let us know what your top 5 is. Drop us a line at thefigurefourpodcast@gmail.com. We had a great time bringing this episode to you guys. We hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, my name is Doug. I'm out.